City Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here on HMTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan. I have a very, very special guest and a very dear friend of mine who has done some incredible things in his community, and he's got plans to do much more. And I'm excited to have Ron Csilag. Hi, Ron. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hello, Bernie. Thank you for having me.
We go back a long way.
Yes, we do. We both graduated New York Chiropractor College together in December of 1980.
And do you know, as a matter of fact, I lived here in Glen Cove for 1 year while I was going to the chiropractic college. I never thought I'd ever come back to Glen Cove. Not that I didn't like it, it's just that it was remote and I had other plans. But here I am again back in Glen Cove.
You never know where you wind up in life. There's the old saying, man plans, God laughs.
I love that. You have a lot of sayings that you share, and I love that you do that because it all makes sense. And a lot of these sayings come about because of people's experience and aha moments that they've had. You've had a lot of aha moments in your life.
Yes, I have. I've been in some places where I certainly never thought I would end up, and they wound up becoming very unique, special experiences. Back in 1991, I was in practice for 10, 11 years, as you were. And in May of 91, Israel staged Operation Solomon, bringing the Jews out of Ethiopia. To be honest, way before that, I did not know there were even Jews in Ethiopia. When it happened, and I saw that it was happening, I knew that I had to try and contribute in some way, being the child of a Holocaust refugee who came to this country in 1947 from a DP camp. By coincidence, just before Operation Solomon, Israel had been under attack from Saddam Hussein. Every Friday night he was shooting Scud missiles into Israel as a Shabbos gift. And I decided at that time that if I don't go to Israel that summer, who will? I had never been there before. And I planned a trip with UJA to Israel in July. When the Ethiopian Jews were brought out in May, I wanted to find a way to contact and connect with them. I got in touch with the North American Conference of Ethiopian Jewry, and I just started for a small sum every month sponsoring high school students. Basically, they went to boarding school, and it gave them spending money to go out for pizza with their friends, take a bus home on the weekend, and things of that nature. The UJA trip included trips to these facilities where they were being housed until they were put out into Israel society. And I was able to connect with them, meet them. There was a young lady I was sponsoring I met up with who asked for the very unusual gift to be sent of baseball bats and gloves to Israel because her brothers had come to Israel and somehow fallen in love with baseball, which really wasn't there yet. And it was a unique, certainly different experience. Mazi, the local county legislator from Great Neck, actually came to Israel as part of Operation Solomon and that airplane lift situation, and we've discussed it and been together about it. Down the road, after 9/11, myself as Bernie, we were volunteers down at Ground Zero. I used to go down there every other Wednesday night after my office hours and stay till 2, 3 in the morning until there were no more rescue workers to adjust that night. I felt it was my way to repay this country for taking my father in, who was a penniless refugee immigrant. He always used the word refugee. He felt very, very proud that once he came to this country, about a year and a half later, he received a letter from the president, which is quite an honor. Harry Truman sent him a letter with the first word on it, greetings. individuals who were ever drafted came to know that that meant they were sending you into the military. And he wound up doing basic training.
Is that true?
The letter from the government that starts greetings means you were drafted when there was still a military draft.
Okay.
He wound up in Fort Lee, Virginia for basic training, and was actually sent to a war zone in Korea where he served for about 1.5 to 2 years. One of the proudest things my father used to say is that he was honorably discharged from the United States Army as Corporal Joseph Csilag. And I always felt I did not serve in the military, but I owed this country something for taking us in and giving me the phenomenal opportunities which I've been given. And this was one of my ways to pay America back.
Right. You have a history of serving your community. And when you retired your practice, you wanted to continue serving your community, but you chose to become a rabbi. And how has that been able to allow you to facilitate, your ideals and your generosity and your kindness to the community? How has that allowed you, and what platform are you using to do that?
What actually happened is I injured my hands adjusting a patient and wound up retiring 1 year or 2 before I probably would have.
Did you sue that patient?
No, I didn't sue the patient. Although in this society,
it was
we all
malpractice
know
being a patient.
Anyone can sue anyone.
Yeah.
I already had gray hair and was closer to the end of my career than the beginning, and felt, okay, I am retired. I was happily retired. I was not bored. I was not necessarily looking for something to do. And people had always said to me, you would make a great rabbi. I grew up much more traditionally than my friends.
And why is that? Because you've given advice to people, perhaps, or you had different perspectives that helped people? Well, what was the reason why somebody told you that?
I had become an advice giver. I grew up much more traditionally than my friends.
A free advice giver.
Absolutely free.
Yeah.
And what would happen is, let's just say hypothetically, friends of mine would say, when does Passover start? When does it end? When is Rosh Hashanah? What time do they blow the shofar?
There's something called Google. People can look it up.
And I would know, there was no internet to look it up when I was a kid.
Right.
And what would happen is I invariably would know the answer, and people would say, thanks, Rabbi Ron. And they were jokingly saying it, and I chuckled, and we moved on. And one day I said to myself, maybe becoming Rabbi Ron isn't the worst idea I ever had. And next thing you know, I was in rabbinical school, and next thing you know,
isn't that what happens?
After a course of study, I was Rabbi Ron.
It happens to me also. I have a little bug in my head about doing something, and it grows. And before I know it, I'm taking actions. I think for most people who have negative thoughts, negative outcomes, they also fulfill those prophecies as well. I think it's better to have positive things in your mind and feed those ideas, those seeds, and let that become a reality. And so do you advise that to people as well?
100%.
Because I know you as a very optimistic person. You
become what you think about. There is absolutely no question or doubt in my mind about that. And what happened is I started rabbinical school before October 7th and the Hamas attack on Israel had occurred. I graduated, and October 7th had occurred 2 months before. Our community, I live in Syosset, had a young man who, at that time, we believe was still a hostage, Omer Nutra. He was a lone soldier, which is an American young man or woman who goes to Israel, does not have his nuclear family there, and joins the IDF to support his country. And we believed him to be a living hostage at the time. And there were various movements in the area, such as Run for Their Lives, where we walk every Sunday morning to the JCC in Plainview as a support group, and on and on. And before I knew it, I kind of became a spokesperson for the hostages, Omer and Israel. Soon after, I was asked to speak as part of a group up at the state capitol in Albany. Joseph Csilag, when he was on the ship landing in New York on January 18th, 1947, probably never imagined his son speaking as a rabbi in front of a bunch of state senators, defining the term never again. The Senate minority leader spoke just before me, and never again is a term often used to get some applause and encouragement out of a crowd. Mm-hmm. And he gave a never again, mm-hmm. and everybody's... And when I got the microphone after saying a hostage prayer, I defined really what I think never again means to him. That it does not mean Jews will never be attacked again. We have a 3,000 plus year mm-hmm. history of being attacked.
Over and over again.
Talking and
We are a resilient bunch, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're not supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. I believe it was Ben Gurion who said that if you believe there are still a Jewish people, you almost have to believe in God, and I don't think he was a religious man. Mm-hmm. And I defined the fact that while we will be attacked again, talking hasn't worked that well for us. What it really means now is we kick, we fight, we scream, and the IDF comes and kicks your butt. I didn't use the word butt, I don't think, that mm-hmm. day. And people went wild. This is what people want to hear. Everybody likes the concept of we're going to talk and we're going to make friends and they're going to like us. They're never going to like us. I don't know if that's a popular opinion in this building, but the rest of the world has never embraced and loved Jews.
Well, not everybody. I mean, some people have.
Some have.
You're basically talking about a consensus, like a general consensus. But there's a lot of groups that are very much, there's Christian organizations that are very pro-Israel.
Yes, there are some.
There are a lot of organizations, a lot of people, but here's the problem. Most people are silent, and you really don't know what they're thinking.
When Archie Bunker said the silent majority,
right.
Archie knew what he was talking about on that one.
It's true, it's the silent majority. And people think things that you don't know what they think. And they may be more in favor of what you think that they're against. So we really don't know. However, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and those that speak the loudest are hate groups and anti-Semitic groups. Those are the ones we have to kind of quell, but to override them with positive, news and facts and messages to our community, so that they get more education, more information, so they can make a more informed choice. I think people are not making informed choices. What they're doing is they're obeying their groups and organizations that they follow, and whatever it is that they say. And this kind of echoes what happened in the 1930s in Nazi Germany, where the people basically just obeyed what the Nazi regime put out there, and they were willing to do what was instructed. Doctors were corrupted, nurses were corrupted, educators were corrupted. They gave an oath never to harm anyone, doctors and nurses, and yet they euthanized 200 innocent, disabled German citizens. They sterilized women with depression, only to obey this ideology that later on they realized this is from a nut job. This is from a psychopath. There's only a few psychopaths that spread their ideologies that too many people pick up, and that's the danger. And we have to kind of intercept that. We have to deter it.
Somehow we have to find a way, first of all, to stop what is going on the college campuses.
Yes.
That is step one.
And that's a dangerous place.
It's a very dangerous place. It is, the Yiddish word is shanda.
Yeah.
It's a sin. It's a shame on our society that individuals are allowed to break the law, break up buildings, disrupt classes, block classrooms, and do what they're doing with absolutely no consequences or very minimal ones, little slaps on the wrist, which are nonsense. That has to be stopped. All the time I have parents come to me crying that their child is a student here or there, and what are they going to do? Their classes are blocked, they get pushed, they get this, that. So far, talking, unfortunately, has not changed it. Mm-hmm. And our elected officials have not sent law enforcement in to change it. When Columbia started, and someone said something to me, and I said, well, the New York City Police Department has to go in, break up the mob, and allow students to attend class. Mm-hmm. And I was told by the individual, well, Columbia's private, the police can't just go in. And I said to them, well, if there's a fire there, who puts the fire out? The New York City Fire Department or the Columbia University Fire Department? And they said to me, what, are you foolish? There is no Columbia University Fire Department. And I said, well, right now there's no Columbia University Police Department.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's the New York City.
So the New York City Police Department has to be instructed to go in. We saw also on TV, they took over a building, they broke it up, and what was the response? The administration was sending them food and supplies. It's ludicrous. Do I have the answer? Yeah, send them in. Do I have the power to do it? Not yet. Mm-hmm. Nor do I think will I ever. That might be a bit above my pay grade, but that's what I speak about. That's what I would like to see happen in these situations, that the wonderful free country, and I love America that we live in, enforces the laws against law breaking on these college campuses and in these situations, and restores the rights of the Jewish students who did absolutely nothing.
And don't feel safe going to school.
They
have every right to feel safe.
You know, when they interview some of these lawless, mask-wearing individuals, and they're screaming from the river to the sea, they think it's the Hudson River. Mm-hmm. Who has paid them? Who has put them there?
So what you're doing is you're acting as a voice.
I'm trying to, yes.
And that's where you are an extraordinary hero, because you are representing a group of people. You're speaking on their behalf. You're speaking up for what's right. You're speaking against injustice. And what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? A lot of things do. It's funny, and my son has the same situation that he doesn't sleep either, but that's because he's setting up and running his own business. What keeps me up at night is finding ways and solutions and trying to figure out what more can I do.
What will allow you to sleep at night?
What will allow me to sleep?
What will have to happen for you to feel at ease?
At ease? First of all, lawfulness return to these institutions, and somehow an end to anti-Semitism, which again has been around much longer than you and I if we multiplied our ages. That would be A. I'd be very happy if Israel was safe and had secure borders. Okay? I would be thrilled if in this country the polarization ended. And I'm not saying I think either side is right or wrong, but right now, America is here and here. There's no middle. And I think we need to find a middle of compromise from the different opinions. Stories go back that when Lyndon Johnson was president, Barry Goldwater was the head of the Senate, I believe. And when there was a problem between the Senate and the president, Lyndon Johnson would call him up, hey, Barry, come over to the White House. He would put out some Texas bourbon. They found the middle. Ronald Reagan had Tip O'Neill. When they had a disagreement with the Congress, Ronald Reagan would call him up. Irish whiskey came out.
Mm-hmm.
They found the middle. Right now, unfortunately, I don't think either side is right or wrong fully. Each has their correct positions on certain issues. But I think we need to find a middle again, a compromise.
Why does it have to be like on 9/12? There was a middle. There were no two sides. Everybody came together as a country. Why does it have to be, as a wise person like yourself?
Well, could you do me a favor, Bernie?
Yeah.
Could you go to my house and repeat what you just said, that I'm a wise person?
You're a very wise person, and I will.
Thank you.
I will call, text, and fax every member of your family and tell them how wise you truly are. But from a wise perspective, from the perspective of wisdom, old age wisdom, why does it have to be that we have a common enemy?
Let's not call it old age. Long term.
Long term. Okay. Okay. Like long term care. So why does it have to be that we have to have a common enemy for us to realize that we really should unite and stand together?
I think part of the situation is, in this country, we have a blessing of comfort. And when people become comfortable, they become less aware and they become complacent. There's a saying, which it's coming off the top of my head, so I hope I get it right, that comfort comes as a guest, stays as a host, and lingers to enslave. And I think that's what happens. We have a wonderful country here. We have programs in place that if you're less fortunate, your needs can be taken care of. We have opportunities where you really can become whatever you want in this country, given the opportunity. My father came here with 2 cents in his pocket. And out of the 2 cents that they gave him on the ship, the Ernie Pyle, to come here, they told him when they passed the Statue of Liberty to throw them in the water for good luck. But he figured he might need the 2 cents because it was all he had.
He had some common sense.
I guess he had some common sense. He had no real formal education beyond 6th grade. I don't know how your family came here, if they had any means or not. But where else in the world almost could someone come here with 2 cents in their pocket, literally, have their children both become doctors? My brother's also a chiropractor. Have their grandchildren succeed phenomenally beyond anyone's dreams or expectations. We live the American dream.
Right, and we shouldn't take it for granted.
We should never take it for granted.
These are nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you.
Dr. Ron, Rabbi Ron, I know you as both, but I also know you as a deep thinking, deep-souled, brilliant individual who really, truly, truly cares about others.
I do.
And it shows, and I'm grateful to know you, and those that know you are lucky to have you in their lives. And I appreciate your time today to share your wisdom and your experiences and your thoughts. And I want to thank all those that have been eavesdropping in this little conversation today on HMTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan of Ordinary Heroes. Until next time, stay well.